Coming up on today's show, the homeowner made ill by his own flat.
The meter readings should be safely around about 400 in flats, and mine went at 3,400.
Over 6 times.
There's nothing like filling your lungs full of good, clean, fresh air, but in these traffic-filled streets of our towns and cities, it's actually quite hard to do. At least once you're inside the comfort of your own home, you wouldn't have to worry about the quality of the air that you were breathing. Well, that's what you'd hope.
That's exactly what 39-year-old Ian Churchill was hoping for when he bought a new flat in London's Canary Wharf. But unfortunately, he's experienced problems with the property that have impacted on his health. Ian's story began in 2006.
I noticed pretty much straight away that I wasn't feeling my best. I was waking up feeling very unrested, tired, like, you know, there's something wrong here, but I'm not quite sure what it is. Thought maybe I was just overdoing it, so I tried to calm things down just a little.
But that didn't work, and over time his health continued to get worse.
I wake up feeling extremely tired, unrested, dry eyes, you know, not being able to breathe properly, you know, short breaths, shortness of breath. You try to do something and you're really gasping for your breath.
In 2007, Ian was fearful that his symptoms had something to do with the air he was breathing inside the flat. He suspected it could have been to do with his boiler.
When I looked at the internet to see what my symptoms may be caused by, I noticed that carbon dioxide was coming up. And when I looked into it, I noticed that I had all those symptoms.
First it was carbon monoxide, and now it was potentially CO2 as well. Ian immediately bought a carbon dioxide meter and started using it.
And I just watched mine go up and up and up, and I realised that there's no ventilation in my flat at all.
Sounds to me like Ian's pretty concerned about the quality of air in his flat, so I've come to East London to meet him and find out what's going on. In fact, his front door's ajar. Is that because he's waiting for me?
Sadly, I know it isn't.
Ian,
Hi, Dom.
nice to meet you, all right? Something I found quite strange here, when I come to meet you, you live in a ground floor apartment here, yet your front door's open.
They said that my front door counted as my ventilation, so I'm just left in a situation where I have to have my front door open.
And how does that make you feel, you know, security-wise?
Well, it's not secure at all. You know, it's a high-crime area.
Unbelievably, Ian has actually fitted a special lock so that he can leave the front door open, just to get the fresh air the flat seems to need. This is a problem Ian has lived with since 2006.
What I have noticed, though, is you've got a unit up there which looks like an air conditioning unit.
That was fitted by the Housing Association because the temperatures inside the flat were reaching 30 degrees. That was their solution to cooling the flat down.
But yeah, it's not drawing in fresh air from outside, is it?
No.
So, what about the gas boiler which Ian suspected could have been leaking carbon monoxide into his flat and potentially causing his symptoms?
Right, you've now got an electric boiler in here, yet you've still got complaints.
Yeah, right, okay. Carbon monoxide's gone. The heat's, I'm not under heat stress all the time, but I wasn't feeling as good as I do if I'm somewhere else.
And now knowing it wasn't carbon monoxide that was potentially causing him grief, Ian bought the carbon dioxide tester in 2012.
I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked. When I plugged it in, I thought there was something wrong with the meter, because the meter readings should be safely around about 400, 500 in flats. And mine went, I've actually recorded it at 3,400. That's how high it was. It just
Over
got to,
6 times.
Yeah, ridiculous amounts. And I noticed when it got anywhere near 1,000, you just started drifting off and falling asleep. And my flat was never under 1,000.
CO2 is measured in parts per million, and Ian's readings are alarmingly high. The situation now is so bad that Ian can only stay in his flat a couple of days a week. This self-imposed exile is clearly out of order.
What do you think is causing a problem that needs to be resolved?
I think it's the windows. I think the houses are too sealed. I think that there's not enough air coming in. All the windows are on one side. It's just completely sealed, and I'd like that to be investigated.
But things definitely hot up when we start testing.
That's a bit concerning then, isn't it?
Yes.
Everything's so high.
Yes.
I've been answering a cry for help from Ian Churchill, who is convinced that his flat's potentially poor ventilation is making him ill.
I'd wake up in the morning and I couldn't lift my head up from the pillow. It was like I'd been drugged all night long.
But Ian's symptoms still persist, and he only stays in his flat 2 days a week.
I'm trying to stress to them is that this problem isn't something I'm just making up in my head.
And it turns out, Ian is not the only resident suffering health problems here.
Hello.
Hi, is that Maria?
Hi.
Hi, Maria, it's Dominic from Don't Get Done, Get Dom.
Oh, hi. Come in.
Thank you. Hi there, Maria.
Maria also has serious concerns about the air quality in her flat where she lives with her 2 daughters.
You've had some fears, haven't you?
When I first moved in, I bought a carbon monoxide detector because I assumed there was something wrong with the air. There was obviously something that started making me feel quite ill. My older daughter, who was just me and her at the time, she started constantly getting sick as well. And that's when I discovered the mould underneath a mattress. I said, look, we need some more ventilation here because the air's not escaping because we're just suffering with dry eyes, dry nostrils, nose, the throat, and constant dizziness. You've got the kids running around, and some days they feel ill. 1 minute they're fine, next minute they're feeling, dizzy and fatigue and a bit zombified,
What we really need is independently verified evidence that it's the air quality caused by bad ventilation that could be making residents ill. I know just the chaps to do the job.
We breathe in and out about 20,000 litres of air a day. We spend 90% of our time indoors, so indoor air quality is of primary importance to health. We're here today to test for a broad range of air quality factors, quality of life and health in an indoor environment. Good morning, Ian.
Come in.
Thank you.
Roger Martin is a certified associate member of the Institute of Environmental Science, and he and his team are going to test the indoor gases in Ian and Maria's flat and in 3 others in the block. Roger has brought in his specialised monitoring equipment which will take the gas level measurements.
Well, we've got some readings from the particulate side. You've got a lot of particulate matter in here, which is actually consistent with an unventilated environment.
It's a bit concerning then, isn't it?
Yes.
So having been exposed to this for 6 years, what's been happening to me?
Well, you would certainly have experienced severe adverse health reactions. Tiredness, headaches, nausea. A 6-year-long flu, probably at the best.
The measurements are already pointing to something wrong here. This is quite alarming. Roger and his team are keen to see what else they can find.
Oh, hi.
And they come up with some results. PDQ.
You're pretty much elevated on all counts throughout the range. Just to give you a general indication, your total volatile organic compounds, we're reading 4,500 parts per billion. If we were in a healthy property, we wouldn't expect that to be more than 300. The only way to keep those down is to either to purify them from the air, actually to filter them out of the air, or by ventilation.
So there you have it. As Roger and the team run tests in 3 neighbouring apartments, evidence is mounting up. All we need to do is wait for Roger's thoughts.
This block is possibly one of the worst properties as far as air quality is concerned.
Ouch. But when it comes to Maria's flat,
One of the flats has shown carbon monoxide levels the highest that we've detected in a residential property, which is quite worrying.
with the environmental officers now on side, we step up the tests and bring in the big guns. But will Ian and Maria be able to catch a breath? Ian and neighbour Maria are concerned about poor ventilation in their flats.
It's like having a disability. You haven't got our full health.
I have memories of feeling healthy.
We've instigated air quality tests and discovered excessive build-ups of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. It's serious. Our own investigations continue. Roger, the independent air quality tester, installs devices that monitor levels over 48 hours, with Ian and Maria instructed to keep a diary of their activities.
Over the weekend, I just really need you to do what you would normally do, but to take a note of all of the activities in this flat.
The results of these tests suggest that some of the gases, namely carbon monoxide, were not coming from within the flats themselves, but outside. And the chief suspect was the external boiler ventilation flues on the side of the flats.
It's frightening to come home. You can't have your window open because you need the ventilation. So now I have to have my window closed just in case it's blowing from downstairs boiler.
A couple of days later, Roger returns yet again with a thermal imaging camera so that he can see what happens with the fumes that are released from the flues outside the flats.
Using my thermal camera, I managed to identify the vent. Directly below it, we can see a pool of water on the pavement. The presence of this condensate on the pavement indicate that it hasn't been correctly installed. The original intention of a boiler vent is to pump boiler vent gases away from the property. You can see quite clearly that those boiler vent gases are moving up and around the side of the building.
Roger goes off and compiles all 3 test results into one report. All we can do now is sit tight and see what happens. I put complaints into the Health and Safety Executive, Environmental Health, the Council, you name it. Now that eventually started the ball rolling, and then things started to happen. Now I've got their attention, it's time to read the statement concerning bad ventilation in both flats. 2 pages long, so I'm just going to read out the relevant points. About the carbon dioxide, CO2, they say, they did record a series of events where concentrations of CO2 exceeded the Chartered Institute of Building Services Engineers guideline of 1,000 parts per million. Now that is an admission there is a problem. Fantastic news. But let's now talk about the carbon monoxide issues in Maria's flat that came back with some of the highest readings. In your case, because you're 2 floors up, you felt that people's boilers, the flues and the exhaust from that was coming in through your window.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that carbon monoxide produced by boiler plume may be re-entering properties via open windows, and they're going to move them. In the very near future, your problems should be history.
That's good news.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Take care. Cheers, Ian. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's such a relief to hear that they're going to solve the problem. Ventilation, children's health should improve, my health should improve.
If they then start injecting fresh air from another source using this mechanical ventilation, it's going to be brilliant for me.